You view them for who you want them to be instead of for who they truly are. This happens in all types of relationships, whether it's family, at school, at work, with coworkers, students, teachers, friends, romantic. This happens in all the settings. It happens at the job, as I said, in the community. It happens in houses. It happens at dining room tables, etc. And it goes both ways, where, you know, you will view a person in either a more positive way than they actually are, or in a more negative way, depending on the circumstance. And I believe people do this for different reasons. I believe one of the reasons can be because they want to have their past solidified in the present. So they're thinking about like past people they've encountered, and they're interacting with this person in the present, and if this, for whatever reason, they want to have this perception of this person in the present that reminds them of somebody from the past. Hopefully that makes sense. Either because they're still thinking about somebody from the past, so they're seeing this person in the present for any attributes that they could share, but taking it, you know, I know people share characteristics amongst each other, like that's normal, that's fine, but take it to an extent where, like I said, that they're not seeing this other person for who they truly are. And so perhaps because, like I said, they want their past solidified, perhaps they're still reminiscing about this person in the past, so they're trying to see them in this person that they have in the present, or they go based off maybe patterns, but to a grander extent. And the other reason is because people want their perception of this person to be right. Literally the reason is they just want to be right. So like they'll, think that they know this person, that they know you, and perhaps they end up, somebody tells them, or the person they're talking to is like, oh, you don't really know me that well. And then they're like, but I do know you very well because I've been around you. I've been around you for a while. I've been talking to you for a long time, or, we're close. And so, but they don't realize, this person doesn't realize that they've just been they've had this perception of this person that's been false, but they want to be right, so they don't want to let go of that perception of you or whoever. And another way I see this, observing life. Another way this happens is because they want a relationship to work out, whether that's a friendship. Usually it's a deeper relationship, so it's like a friendship or a romantic relationship, or even a family member, because family members, I believe, are generally deep relationships. They want this relationship to work out, therefore they will just think of this person the way they want to think of them, and just see them for what they want to see them as instead of for who they truly are. Because they want to maintain this relationship, and in order to maintain that, they need to maintain this image of this person. Or it just becomes very, very much like a lot of tension and friction in that relationship, and so it goes into pretending. And I think also some people, they want to have this image of this person because they're afraid of what happens if I don't have this relationship in my life. They feel scared, they feel anxious about, if I don't have this person in my life, what do I have then? Like, is somebody else going to fulfill that for me? Or nobody's going to fulfill that for me? Or is something going to fill that space in me that that person did? And that's where, like, the dependency on other people come in. And I don't think it's inherently wrong to be dependent on somebody, because I think, at least from my 20-year-old self now, I think that whenever you have a genuine relationship with somebody, there's naturally going to be some dependency on that person, mentally, emotionally, because you have a relationship with that person. You're opening up to them, and you talk about topics beyond surface level. So I'm not saying it's inherently wrong. I'm saying that, it becomes an issue when one person or both people view the other as somebody else instead of for the person directly in front of you. So then that goes into the consequences of these dynamics. And usually what ends up happening is one of the people or both of the people in the relationship end up feeling disappointed, frustrated, sad, upset, irritated, surprised, etc. And the relationship either ends, it continues awkwardly, or continues parallel with delusion. Whether one or both people realize what they're doing, what they're actively doing, and actively, like, dressing up this person however they want to, or they don't realize they are dressing up this person. They just think that's who they are. So that's what I mean by whether they realize it or not. And so this causes a lot of distress, I think, for a decent amount of people who are in this predicament, which I think most people, if not everyone, probably experiences in their life. Because, like I said, this is not just with relationships, the typical ones we think about, like romantic. This happens across all types of relationships. So, and because of, like, a lot of it, I think it's because of the structure of the life, how it is now, especially, I guess, but I'll get into that later. So yeah, it causes a lot of distress and friction amongst the relationship, and so that's why, like I said, it either one of the people or both of them are like, yeah, this is mutually unbeneficial for both of us, or they just continue in this, like, this awkward sort of position where, like, you ever had a relationship where it's like you feel a sense of tension or awkwardness between this person, though you don't directly point it out at all, because you want this relationship to work out with this person so much, because, like I said, you don't know what your life will be without them, or maybe you just feel bad if you're not in their life. You feel bad for them, like, oh, what will happen to them? And so you just stay in that relationship, even despite the constant feeling of being out of place, which is weird, right? Because that's not how we should feel in a relationship. And then, or like I said, it continues with this delusion where it's like, oh, I'm not seeing them for who they are not. I'm seeing them for who they truly are. I'm not making them up to be how I want them to be. That is who they truly are. And then it's like, just to, whether you know deep down or not, whether you believe what you're saying or not, the people around you generally can probably, spot out that that's not true. But you're so invested in this person or this relationship this characteristic they have, this attribute, this what they bring to your life, what they symbolize, that you just maintain it, you stick with that, despite what is most likely best for you mentally and your sanity. So, and I believe a lot of this is caused by living in a world where I think there's a few reasons for this. I think one of them I could say is because we live in a world where most of us are confused, like deep down we're confused about who we are ourselves, and divided from ourselves as well, where like a lot of our inner peace and genuine relationships with others come from knowing ourselves the best we can possibly know ourselves, always like crossing that next plateau of like knowing yourself. And I think, you know, when people are deep down, they're confused about who they are, or there's this sense of division, even if they don't sense it themselves. But if there is clearly division there, or separation because you see it in the way they behave or act, or who they're around, or whichever reason, you know, maybe you see it, you notice it, and they, like I said, this goes on, and most likely they're also the people who have some relationship in their life that isn't, that they are seeing, making up a version of a person instead of seeing them for who they truly are, because they don't fully know who they are themselves. So it's almost like you're like trying to find yourself in another person, which may sound okay, but I think this can be a little bit, I think it can be insidious in certain situations, in certain circumstances, and in the certain circumstances when you really are confused deep down, or you don't understand yourself. I believe people can grow together, and you can see aspects of yourself in other people, because I think this happens in most relationships. And there's nothing, once again, inherently wrong with being like, oh, we have similarities, we have differences. Like, that's completely normal. What I'm saying is to completely like build yourself in a way through a relationship with somebody, or completely like, you know, this relationship encompasses who you are. Does that make sense? That's what I mean. And also this happens because, like I said in a previous video, a lot of this life we're forced to pretend in most settings, for school, work, family gatherings, and in the house, and in friend groups or friendships, for those who are very unfortunate. So, in family, in the house and in friends, that's what I refer to when I say very unfortunate, because to come to your house and to go to your friends, your supposed friends, and have to and still feel like, you know, you're seeing somebody for who you want them to be instead of for who they truly are, because it's more comforting than the truth, then that's even more like very unfortunate, because those are space, like relationships that are supposed to technically be like safer or more comforting than the world outside of that, right? And because a lot of life is pretending to be okay or accept what this world is or to be oblivious to it, that also feeds in to seeing people for who you want them to be instead of for who they genuinely are, because it goes under the overarching theme of pretending, of delusion, of dishonesty, of I would say probably those three terms, and just feeling trepidation, maybe even. So it all blends in to one another. So therefore, for those relationships we do have, especially the ones we seek, if the person isn't who we hoped they'd be or thought they were, we try to create a version or in our minds and tell others. Sometimes we tell other people, oh, this person is this way or that way. So we create this version to either numb ourselves or just to because we want, like I said, we just crave somebody that we just crave the person that we crave, right? We want the person that we want. So if we don't see it in that person, we just create that version in our heads. And so, and either and sometimes, and especially the relationships I feel that people tend to do this the most in is when we're relationships where we're connected by lineage, so family, or relationships such as friends and romantic, because those are tend to be the deepest relationships. And so at times we desperately want that person, because especially the relationship tends to naturally be deeper, to be who we thought they were or who we want them to be, just for the sake of the relationship working out or trying to work out anyways. Because like I said, we're feeling what will life be without them. So And I also feel like a lot of this is, or a decent portion of it is also just we as humans, we're social, whether we like it or not. So we want connections with people. We want to feel deeply with people. So especially if we don't have that type of relationship in our life, or we feel it's lacking something, if we find somebody who could potentially be this relationship that we feel so deeply about, that we feel so connected to, whether it's, it doesn't have to be romantic, but it can be romantic, then we just, like I said, we make up this person in our mind if we feel they fit that role. And we make, and we feel they fit the role, but in this case they don't, but we just make it up just so we make that person up to be that role just so we can feel better in this life. So if you watch till the end, or listen to any part of this, thank you. I really appreciate for you giving me some of your time. And if you like this video, it'd be great if you click the like button. And if you feel like anybody else would be interested in this video, then please share it with them. And also, if you watch this video or watch, my videos in general, please consider subscribing too. That would be great.